Hello friends, I am Shahzad and today I am going to cover Preamble of the Indian Constitution. So in this lecture we will understand in between the lines of the Preamble the various keywords in the Preamble, and it is very important for us to understand and by heart the Preamble by heart. So the thing is, first, the preamble is basically the preface of the constitution. It is like if there is any book, there is some introduction what it books contain and what are its type. So it is a preface, or it is a like what identity card of the constitution, what the constitution has in its essence, is covered in the preamble. And it is based on the objective resolution passed by Constituent Assembly, as proposed by Pandit Nehru at the start of the Constituent Assembly. So in this lectures we will understand what we mean by we the people of India, what is the term sovereign, how socialist reflects in our constitution, what is the concept of secularism, democratic republic, justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. So these are the terms of the political jargons, like these are very important, very crucial words, which on which our the whole ecosystem of the polity is enshrined, and so it is very important for us to understand this terminology. So first, we the people of India. So we the people of India basically represent the constitutional autochthony. What we mean by this autochthony? Autochthony is that we the people have ourselves designed this constitution. It is basically the constitutional nationalism. The constitution is product of Indian people. It is not imposed by the British or the Americans, like how the Japanese constitutions was developed. So it is not like that. The Indian constitutions is developed by the Indian nationals, and it just don't assert the autonomy of the Indian state, but it reflects that our constitution is derived from our own native tradition. It reflects our indigenous identity, and the authority of the constitution is lying in its own soil. No external or the internal power is influencing to form the constitution in what in its shape is present. So if we see the first Indian Independence Act was passed in 1947, which mentioned of the new constitution to be prepared by the Constituent Assembly, and it mentioned the Indian Independence Act mentioned that the new constitution need to be presented in front of the Governor General for approval. This, if it had been done, if the new constitution had been done, has been presented in front of Governor General for approval, it will not reflect the constitutional autochthony. It will just be it will be like the that we are still under the influence of the British monarch. Again, the cabinet mission plan approves the formation of Constituent Assembly, and in cabinet mission plan it was mentioned that our constitutions needs to be approved by the crown in parliament, that is the British parliament. So what, how the constitutions maker have ensured that we ensure that our the constitutional autochthony is maintained, the nationalism based on the constitution is maintained. It should not be feel like it has been prepared under the influence of the external power. So for that purpose, the Constituent Assembly repealed Indian Independence Act. It rejected that this Constituent Assembly has been formed under the guidance of the Indian Independence Act, which was the act of the British Parliament. So it has repealed Indian Independence Act before the formation of the Constitution. It also did not produce our Constitution in front of the Governor General or in front of the Crown for its approval. So basically, the Indian Constitution was prepared by its own people. It has no legality or legal backing from the British Parliament. It rejected the British Parliament and the constitutional legality of the British Parliament. So our constitution is indigenous. It is prepared by our own Indian people, and it has been given to the Indian people. For more to understand on the constitutional autochthony, you can read this link on the Hindu. So going forward, what we mean by this sovereign? Swaran is basically that Indian state, the government or the overall the system of the governance is not under any external or internal authority. What we mean by external authority, for example, the Australia is still under the crown. The head of the state is not any Australian people, like in our case, which is the president of India. The head of the state in Australia is a British crown, right now itself. So we, for us, there is no external authority which is controlling or influencing or or have any legality of authority on the Indian government or the Indian system of polity. Similarly, we have no internal authority which is challenging the stature of government. Like in what happened that in medieval times there used to exist two institutions. Like one is the government and another is the church. So there will be some specific topics where the church have the sole authority. The church will dictate the manner the religious things will proceed. So for India, it is not such like that. The even the religious institution whatsoever it exists, it is still under the government, under the authority of the government. It cannot challenge the authority of the government. So one very important, then one can ask that India is a member of UNO. So does it affects the sovereignty of India? No. The India as a member of UNO does not affect the sovereignty of India as sovereignty of India, because in whatever the UNO dictate, or the rules or the regulations or conventions, whatever the UNO pass, it is up to the Indian government to decide whether it wants to go for it or not. Similarly, many people may think that we are the part of the Commonwealth and the British Crown is the head of the Commonwealth. So basically, Commonwealth is a kind of a organization in which all the nations which has been part of the colonial system are the member of it. And India has and the Britain is the Britain Crown is the head of that organization. But it in no whatsoever manner that the British Crown can influence or direct or show authority on the Indian government or Indian state to influence or to dictate the manner in which the India should proceed. So in whatsoever manner, India is not under the authority of any external authority or any internal authority, like any religious institutions or any other institutions existing within India itself. Again, there is one concept like estate. When we say estate, so when we are initially, when we start polity, when we have no idea, most of the time basic estate means rajya, jo Bihar, Uttarakhand or Uttar Pradesh. This estate is not meaning that. This concept of estate is like estate is an overarching body ecosystem, the overall the concept of the government governance, everything what it could implies is come under the state. State is like sometimes when we refer the whole of Indian governance or Indian polity, everything come under the state. So a state is basically the overall ecosystem of the government governance, its people. It includes everything in itself. So what we mean by a state as a sovereign? So when we say India is a state, India the government system of India, the governance is in itself is a sovereign. No external and internal authority can influence the manner of proceed or the kind of business conducted by the Indian state. Then coming to the next topic, which is the socialist. Socialist is there are different concept of socialism. One is the communist socialism. What happened in communist socialism is that the state means the overall government. When we say state now, you can assume government for right now, because if you're not understanding, you can assume that the government in itself, it includes everything. It includes central government, state government, it includes everything. So if I say state, just for right now, you can assume it by government. Okay. So communist socialism is like where the government will control all the means of the production. there will be nationalization, like steel manufacturing will be done by government, education by the government, all the business conduct will be by the government. So everything will be done by the government. There will be no private property. It is a very extreme concept of the socialism. No one will have the private property. Government will give work to everyone. Everyone will work, whatever the work assigned to them, they will get wages, and they will buy things from that. So everything is controlled by the state, everything is controlled by the government. So when I am using state and government parallelly, it is not exactly the same, but for right now you can assume state and the government parallelly. So this is one concept of communist socialism, where there is a nationalization of every product, every means of production, even steel industry, education, health. Everything is controlled by the government. There is no private property. No one can own property. This is a kind of a system which has been envisaged by the Karl Marx, but could not practically implemented to any places except for few extinct in Russia, and what China right now say is a communism, but that is not implemented in its exact sense. So this is one communist socialism. Another is the democratic socialism, which what India's follow. What is socialism? Socialism means it is about society. It's about the minimizing the inequalities in income of everyone. There should be no inequalities in income. Everyone should earn equal income. There should be no inequality in status of the people. Everyone should have equal facility. Everyone should have equal opportunity. And it is not only among the individuals. Many times there is a difference in status of individuals, but also among the groups, like Dalits, or the backward classes, or other peoples who have been not getting equal opportunity. So for this kind of things, our constitution enshrined that there should be equal, providing equal opportunity to all, and there will be no inequality in status, facilities, and opportunity to every people. It means, the Supreme Court mentioned that socialism in India means ending poverty, ending hunger, ending ignorance, ending disease. It is not meaning that the government will control everything and then starting put everyone in line, and then eliminate inequality like that. It envisages that the private sector will exist in parallel with the public sector. The responsibility of the state is to minimize poverty, minimize hunger, ignorance, disease, and also make policy such that there will be no inequality in a status, like for example taxation, how taxation works. So if anyone will earn more, he will give taxes to the government. So, and that taxes will be used for the welfare schemes, for the betterment of the poor. So in this way, the inequalities in income can be minimized. The government provide a subsidy for various things, with the help of the taxes collected from the people, and this helps in minimizing the inequalities in income. So Indian constitution is basically following the Gandhian socialism, which is mostly the democratic socialism, which the various provision of which you will see in directive principle of a state policy, which we will study further, and some part of the communist socialism, like before liberalization, privatization, and globalization in 1991. There has been some control of the government on various sectors of the production, like steel industry, and coal industry, and there has been nationalization of coal mines, and like that. But private sector did exist at that time, but there was a much control of the government. But after 1991, after the liberalization, privatization, and globalization, things are slightly moving in the hand of the private sector, as well as the government involved in the welfare schemes, the government involved in making policy to minimize the inequalities in income and status facilities, and the government is making schemes and the facility so that everyone has equal opportunity. Now coming to the another concept, which is called secularism. So secular word has been first envisaged in the West, and it maintains that there is a strict separation between the religion and the state. So whatever the function of the religion institution or whatever one follows as a religion. It is his private affairs. The state has nothing to do with religion. How a church conduct itself is the private affairs of that religious institution. A state has nothing. A state means government, what I am meaning. The government has nothing to do with the religion, and whatever people follow a religion, it is their private matter to follow the religion. But it was developed when Western society was a homogeneous society, everyone following mostly the same religion. So there was no much conflict. And even if there is a conflict, the government will separate. Like there was a war between the Protestant and Catholics. So government, and because of this war, the government and the state decided to alienate religion completely from its affair. Government will not interfere in the matters of religion at all. So this was the concept of secularism in the West. In India, there is a different kind of secularism. In India, government do interfere in the religious matter, but there is equal treatment. There is a equal treatment for all religion. But this equal treatment also has a different meaning. What it is called principal distance. Principal distance means ki it may appear to you that in some instant government is favoring one vis-a-vis other. It may appear, but no, government take the principal distance. Whatever the principally principally, if things are in favor of one, government will follow in that direction. And if principally it favors the other, it is not actually the favor. It is like at that moment, in that situation, that thing is the right decision. And then government follows that thing. So basically, this model is helpful for the heterogeneous society. Heterogeneous society. So for example, if you see the Central Waqf Council. Central Waqf Council is a statutory body. It is a organization which has been established by the Parliament of India, and which maintain regulation over the Waqf property. What is mean by Waqf property is that the religious properties, or the charitable property given by given for the religious purpose, all those things are maintained by the Central Waqf Council. So you can see the government is interfering in the religious matter, but it is necessary to do so, because if the government will do it, it will help in the proper administration and governance of those matter. Similarly, like there is the applicability of the Muslim personal law in India. So if there is a Muslim personal law, so if the government is not, in this case the government is not interfering in the affairs, how the Muslim conduct their personal issues. So basically, if we go by the concept of the West secularism, there could be no possibility of the Muslim personal law, because because for a state, religion is nothing. Religion is strictly separate. So whatever law apply to one person, it is applied to the another person in the same manner. So so it is the beautiful concept of the Indian secularism, according to which this kind of things like Central Waqf Council or the applicability of the Muslim personal law applies. Similarly, like the temples like Tirumala, Tirupati, Devasthanam, this is a religious institution. Hundreds and crores of peoples arrive daily for pilgrimage here, and this kind of institutions is managed and directly administered by the government. And so in West it could be like the interference in the religious matter, but no, in India the government has the responsibility to maintain these religious institution, because the government can administer and govern this religious institution in a proper manner. Similarly, you can see the government gives the subsidy for the pilgrimage, various pilgrimage. It cannot happen in this concept of secularism. It cannot happen in this kind of secularism. Pilgrimage is very sacrosanct and important for the Indian people. And in India the government gives such kind of pilgrimage subsidy, so that the people can go to their holy places. They could enjoy the religious, they could they could work. They have so much sacrosanct belief in their religious institution, and the government respect those views. Government respect those views, and government provides subsidies for such matters also.